All right, fantastic. We'll get going. Welcome. We do have final contracts and then we have for the Biden administration. Last one's wrapping up this week, right? This is it, right? And then we have a new administration coming in. I know that's a shock to everybody here that nobody knew that was happening, Denise. There's new administration coming in. So I'm following. We're going to kind of build on what we did last month and regurgitate some of it, actually, because I think a lot of it is there. And I love this because anybody remember Steve Van Rokel from he was the first U.S. CIO. Anybody remember him? It was HHS at first. Anyway, I got to meet him, and this is what he said. He said it on Fed Radio one day: resist change and die, accept change and survive, and embrace change and thrive. And I agree with this. And if you haven't read this book, anybody raise your hand if you've read this book. Anybody here?
What book? I'm sorry.
This is
need to flip the slide.
Oh, what up? The other books?
That's what I see. Yeah. I told you I could tell me.
Well, I thought it was that one, but I didn't want to be presumptuous. I thought maybe you had a new book. Yep.
Nope, no book, no new book. Not yet. If this book is enough. Anybody read this book? Who raised their hand? Let me see.
Calvin Marshall.
Calvin. Calvin Marshall. Pop open your mic for a second. You there, Calvin?
I am.
Awesome. So you read this book. Tell me it's first of all, it's pretty simple, right?
It's very simple. It's a middle schooler could read it.
Hey, stop talking about me.
Sorry, I didn't mean you.
Stop talking about me, Calvin. And it's about 4 mice, right?
Pardon me?
It's about 4 mice.
It's about yep. 4. Yeah, you know what? I read it so long ago that I don't remember how many mice there were.
Yeah, it's 4. So there's 4 mice, and 2 of them wake up in the morning. Actually, they all wake up in the morning, and the cheese is gone, right? The cheese is gone. So what happens is 2 of them, let's scurry, they go ripping through to find what? What are they going to find, Calvin?
They're trying to find more cheese.
More cheese. They're finding a new cheese. While the other 2, him and Hall, sit around and complain about the fact that there is no cheese. Right? So that's what it's about. So if you haven't read it, it's a cheap book. It's quick, right? Like you said, even somebody like me, Calvin, can read it, right?
Yeah, it's really a quick read. It really is.
It's a winner, and it's thin. You can read it in a couple of hours or a couple of days, like me, as my middle school friend Calvin has told me.
I'll put the Audible in the chat as well as the description if you don't want to read. If you can't read, so listen to that.
If you're like Dave.
We want to be inclusive here, right, Dave?
We do, but we want to be inclusive. Thanks,
Raphael's in the house. Raphael's in the house.
Raphael's in the house. Yay. Do I need to get Raphael working?
He's busy.
I want to make sure he's a co-host so he can share his video. Oh, that's fantastic. Good to see you, right? All right, so give us for one word. Tell us for one word for doing business with the government. Put that in the chat. We want to make sure you guys get heard, number 1. And the second part is we are going to let us know. Where are we going? Let us know if you're brand spanking new. You could be at square zero, right, Rafa? I was at square zero one day.
Oh, yeah.
I was. Just like everybody else. We still ain't not knowing a daggone thing, right? And then we can have 20 years plus business experience. We started in 2009, so that puts it, we're coming up 16 years, right? We're coming up on 16 years for us. And I've been in the Fed space for 18 now. So kicking and screaming, by the way, Todd Crane. I don't know if you heard that story or not, but I absolutely did not want to be here.
Hey, if they're willing to pay you for it,
They were. Now, I didn't. So for everybody, my resume was this. No experience in the federal government, didn't know what GSA meant, never had a prime contract in the government, didn't even do any subcontracting in the government, and I live here in Maryland. So the only association I have in D.C. is that I'm close. That's all it is, Todd. That's all I was. So I had 0 experience. Now, my question to you is, would you hire me? And would you not just hire me, would you pursue me as a federal sales rep for your company?
Everybody.
What?
I plead the fifth.
Yeah. Everybody else knows the answer is hell no. Well, you never do that. But I had one. I helped them win a contract in Maryland. Right? They went. It was a light rail expansion. It was about $6 million, I think. Anyhow, they pursued me, and I said no for 3 months, and then they bought me crab cakes at G&M. Anybody know what I'm talking about?
Oh, they had you at crab cakes.
They did. They had me crab. And to Todd's point, they hired me, and I said no for 3 months, and they said, "What's it going to take?" And Todd, if you say what's it going to take, and I say $12,000 a month with my resume, everybody here knows that that's smoking crack kind of numbers, right? $12,000 a month with my resume. And they said, "Do it." And I said, "You're crazy, but I'm taking your money." That's what I said. That's exactly what I said.
Then you said to yourself, I should have held out more.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Dang it. I could have said 20.
Dude, it's crazy. So as we get to know each other, I love this. I'm going to end this poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, here we go. All right, Rafa, 22% brand spanking new, 22% 11 to 20 years like I've been in business, and 22% 20 plus years. So there you go. 21% of direct federal contracts or grants, Denise B. Lawrence.
All right.
17% as a teaming partner and 67% with nothing. And 47% have been here before and 53% not. I love it. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys joining us. The setup for today is with change comes opportunity.
Yeah.
Everybody believe that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like it. And so how can we leverage that change? Because if there's opportunity that's coming, we want to leverage that change. So the hot seat questions, they're very similar to last month. In fact, they're identical to last month because I like them. So I want to ask everybody what we're seeing now, and this goes to everybody in the audience as well. What is the most important for businesses? What is going to happen and most important for business come next Monday? Because next Monday, right? It's 20th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then how can you get positioned? Hence, leveraging what we were talking about, Rafa. How do we get positioned to win in 2025? And so that's the primer there. And real quick, if you're from industry, which I think everybody here is from industry, we're not affiliated with the government at all. Some of us have been with the government, not me, but some of us have been there. We're not endorsed by anybody either. And I know that's shocking, Todd, that we would not be endorsed by anybody in the government. It does not guarantee a contract award, Rafael Marrero.
Absolutely not.
And Govies, if you're here and you're a Govie, we love you. And we love the dialogue, and this gives you permission. This was given to me. I pulled this up the other day when I did the session on GovBrief for reaching Govies with GovBrief. This actually came from GSA because we created quite a stir back in 2014 when GSA jacked up a contract. Shocking for everybody here that GSA would mess up a contract, right, Sally White?
I'm completely speaking. No words. No words.
Everybody but it went up. It was the fastest time I've ever got anything done, Rafa, in GSA. It went up, hit the legal, came down across onto my client. Now, if legal comes down on your client, you get a call from the client, the next thing usually out of their mouth is you're fired.
Yeah. No es bueno. No es bueno.
So anyway, that's where that comes from. If you have any questions, please pop them in there. Raise your hand. We love it. Any feedback? We love the feedback. First thing in feedback, I'm putting this into the chat. Hang on. Where did my chat go? Where did my chat go, Zoom? Where's my chat? How do I do?
And while you do that, go ahead and throw your answer to those questions in the chat as well. I'd like to see what you think.
Okay. Is everybody put stuff in the chat yet?
Yep.
What do you got in the chat? Anybody put anything in the chat for so let me know. First things first, before we get into what people say in the chat, click that top link and make sure that it opens something like this and give me a thumbs up that it's working. Everybody, can you get to that? Use that for that top link.
Thumbs up. I put the thumbs up. It's
Okay,
kind
put
of
the thumb up. All right, guys, good. Just want to make sure it's where every once in a while it doesn't work. So if you can't get it, let me know, and we'll make sure you get that. So that's the feedback. So one thing we're going to do today, multiple actually, we're going to connect you with business experts. We got a few here. We got Sally, we got Todd, we got Denise, got Ralph, we got Peter, and we also have Kevin Bookman who popped in as a panelist. So we put him in as a panelist. How you like that, Kevin Bookman?
Thank you, sir.
So we will do shameless plugs for sponsors. Shameless, like this one right here, Sam Radar, shameless. Another shameless.
There's 59 people, Dave, on today. And I would like to put out the challenge. If someone's not already a samradar.com member, we could put it in a link in the chat. And by the end of the meeting, they could become one, right?
That sounds like a plan. I love that.
So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat while you're chatting.
And that's one of the number one things they need to do to be ready for January 20th.
100% to be ready for anything. And we'll get into that in a bit.
We are going to talk about that. And another shameless plug and extremely self-serving, almost as self-serving as the link I just put in there, is that I will be talking about sam.gov today. If you have Sam Radar, you don't need this. But if you'd like to join today, if you don't have Sam Radar, join today, and we'll be talking about the sam.gov tutorial. And the reason why we do this and the reason why we're here, the reason why we all do this, right, is none of us can do this alone, right, Sally White?
No.
Absolutely not.
Yep.
We're not lone wolves here.
Nope. Nice pun. You who don't know Sally White, she's with Echo Wolf because she actually has a wolf.
Yeah.
How many wolves do you have? You have one wolf, right?
Dad one. And if he starts howling, don't be alarmed. He likes this session. So
okay. Well, if he starts howling and we start seeing pieces of Sally's jacket go flying all over the place, we know that the wolf.
Don't marginalize the wolf. That's the Red Riding Hood mentality. Please continue.
Actually, we had a wolf too, and they're the coolest dogs. They are. So why are we here? Where we are is we're in Q2. That started when, Todd Crane? When did Q2 start?
Q2 started January 1st.
January 1st. We are now in Q2. So in the chat, you have the session docs, so everybody can get to those. I'm going to paste those back in there just in case anybody that came late. My stuff is all over the place. I got to fix this before the next thing. So if you get the session docs, you will see the winnable opportunity matrix. We're going to talk about that today. There's a 2024 final spending report because DOD takes 90 days to report on FPDS. We put that in there. We also have the fiscal year 2025 year-to-date spending report. Also, very important, my capability statement, other people's capability statements, like somebody like Rafael Marrero, who creates capability statements.
Yes, sir.
And other essential propaganda. So in that final report that you're going to find, it's pretty large. I think it's like, I don't know, 30 gigs, 30 megs. It's huge. So first things first, everything about this data revolves from two different government fed, they're government websites, right? We have fpds.gov, and FPDS is where contracting officers put finished contracts or contract actions, right, Todd Crane?
Right.
So that's where we can see all of the activity that's been done. And we have sam.gov, and everybody knows probably, well, maybe not. I want to let everybody know. sam.gov is where opportunities go, right, Rafa?
Well, that's where they're supposed to go.
Wait, you're saying they're not all posted?
Setting me up. So here's the reason why everybody's saying that, right? So this report is broken down by number of offers received on the summary. So everybody just follow me along with this for a minute, because this is unprecedented, by the way. 81% of the contracts fall into this category, which are not reported or won. And if you ask a contracting officer, Brian Hebel's not here, but he verified this last month, right? He popped in. And so this means one. This is 81% of all contracts had one offer. Let that sink in for just a minute. One offer received. And let's take a look at the dollars. That's 60% of the dollars. So 81% of the contract activity and 60% of the dollars have no competition. Let that marinate for a minute. Like I said, this is unprecedented. 2019, this was 36%, ladies and gentlemen. And that was still a lot.
Still the spelling.
What's that?
I said, so is the spelling. It's also unprecedented. It's there's a ton.
You did I spell it wrong?
Right.
So I'll get rid of that since it's spelled wrong. So let's talk about, it's going to pop up again. It's going to be wrong because I copied and pasted that one too. That's what happens when you spell in all caps. All right, so 90% of the contracts, 93% of the dollars are 5 or fewer. And does everybody, thumbs up if you agree that that means shortlisted. Would you all like to be part of the 5 that are responding? That means you have 4 competitors. Thumbs up. Does everybody agree that that means shortlisted? Fantastic. So we're on the same page. Again, this is unprecedented, however you spell it.
Or you're keeping us on our toes, that's for sure.
That's right. So where do you want to spend your time? You want to spend your time here, or do you want to spend your time with more than 5? So you want to spend your time 5 or fewer, or more than 5, and I am saying, check this out, watch this, 143,191 hit sam.gov. So now we look at FPDS, where all the contract activity is, and we compare it with the number of solicitations that hit sam.gov, and we have ourselves a delta. Look at that. That's my Greek symbol, Rafa. You should be proud of me, man. I am out into multiple languages.
Delta.
Greek. All right, so 7.1 million and change. And that is why, shameless plug, we built Sam Radar. Why? Because if you can't see it, you can't win it.
Right.
If you're not injecting yourself into the conversation, you can't win. And so therefore, I'm going to ask the next question. Did you know about the 98%? Yes, and you want some. You knew maybe there was something missing, right, Sally? Maybe there's something missing.
Yep.
But you didn't know it was 98%. And maybe this is the first time you're hearing about it, or maybe even better, you don't believe me. I love that, by the way. And then if you would like to try Sam Radar, that's where you're going to find it. If you want to try it, put your name, say you want to try it, and we'll make sure you get a free trial of that. You get a free trial.
Try it before you buy. Try it before you buy, baby.
That's right. And John saying thumbs up. So this is the reason why, and this is very important as we got after the election, right? After the election, we saw some other unprecedented changes, however you spell it, Rafa. So 400% increase in RFI and sources sought started on Wednesday after the election. And we saw 250% increase of RFPs in this past week. And we see that 94% are still not hitting sam.gov. You can see that in the other report for the year-to-date spending. You see that there was more, this was higher than this time of year I have ever seen. And there's a lot of activity, and we can make up reasons for it, or we can decide that we're going to pay attention to activity real time. Is if you're not doing it real time, and if you missed the RFIs and sources saw it, the 3 weeks after the election, they're gone. They're not there anymore. It's not happening right now. And that's why real-time monitoring is so important. And the rest of this is why we have to monitor the activity. If you take a look at this right here, this is coming from the Winnable Opportunity Matrix. We have to monitor the contract activity so we can engage. Right, Rafa?
Absolutely.
And if you're registered on sam.gov and your phone's not ringing, that's the government not calling you.
Yeah.
How you like that?
If the phone don't ring, you know it's them.
That's right.
That's unprecedented.
So we can build relationships, because no matter what, relationships trump everything. And that way we can get our fingerprints on there, right, Todd Crane?
Absolutely. You want those fingerprints all over it.
So that's right. We can influence the acquisition process so that we can minimize the competition. Why? Because if we're not on the short list, we're not one of the ones being considered, and we certainly can't be the one if we're the only one. We want to minimize the competition so we can win. So what are we trying to win? We're trying to win the 98% that don't hit SAM.gov. That's what we want to get ourselves into. That makes sense for everybody? All right, I'm going to end this poll. So appreciate that. Anybody that asks for Sam Radar, you get a call from those folks. And we've got to get to the KOs, also known as COs, right, Todd?
Absolutely.
We got to get to the people that are spending the money.
Your new best friends.
They are. So, hot seat questions. Here we go. What are you guys seeing right now as we get into this? What are you hearing from the people that you're talking to? Now, Todd, you have a different play on this because you're doing CMMC and you just found out something this morning that's very pertinent to your world. And so, absolutely, right? So that's one thing. So we're seeing opportunities in places like that, right? Or regulations that are going to happen, right?
Yep.
So with this, as far as what you're hearing out in the market, anybody want to raise your hand and tell us what you're hearing when you're talking to program managers or buyers? Anybody? Let us know. We'll unmute you too if you'd like to chat. But what are you guys hearing from the market? Anybody? Rafa, what do you hear?
There's a little bit of uncertainty, right? Given the changes, above all, I guess people are trying to understand the new way of doing things, if you will, and some of the proposed changes under the new administration. That's part of it, right? So part of, at least that's what I'm getting from different angles, or part of the signal from the Wall Street Journal and other publications, and some of the Washington publications. People don't quite understand what cost savings mean if their jobs are on the line. There's also a big push to get people back into the office from remote work, right? So there's a couple of major trends that are happening right now. It's getting people back into the office, maximizing efficiencies and cost savings and eliminating duplicity, if you will, and redundancy, right? Not that there's any redundancy in government. Please,
It's not efficient.
It's gonna be interesting because I mean there's a certain culture and a certain resistance that will be, I guess these proposed changes will be met with with some level of resistance, culturally speaking, within the agencies, and so it's gonna be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out. One thing's for certain: there are cost savings and cuts coming, and there are areas that are going to be prioritized over others. Specifically when it comes to national security and other areas like that. So I think that's part of what I'm seeing. By the way, I'm publishing an article tomorrow on Forbes on the how to do business with the new administration. For those of you interested, and I should have a link later today, but wanted to give you all the great news. It's going to be
that's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, congrats.
Really cool.
So Sally, you're out there. You're meeting with people. What are you hearing?
So I actually put it in the chat, anticipating that you might ask me. And I had to spell unprecedented right because I couldn't the call out from Dr. Raphael about my misspelling. So what I'm hearing is two words: be ready. Yeah. And this is coming from contract managers, program managers, large primes. And what I mean by be ready is make sure your positioning, your branding is all aligned. And Dr. Moreno Raphael, his team can assist you with that. Make sure that if you're going to conferences, your booth, your presence is aligned. You're on brand. Make sure before you go to the conference, you're prepared, and you prepare by, again, getting on some radar, having a consultation with David and his team. So when you show up, you're showing up with intelligence. You're walking up to that prime contractor from RTX, and you're saying, I see that you just awarded this contract for a company that does, da-da-da, and so you can be prepared, right? You want to also make sure that you do speaking engagements. If you have something to offer and you can speak and you can articulate, you want to make sure that you're speaking with your clients and others where you're speaking to large groups. You're on conferences like this. So be ready. Your CAPE statement, again, go back to Raphael. Make sure that if you're doing business with the government, that you have credibility. And Peter Timbus can create a letter of financial support. So really
talk about that, Sally. We're going to talk about all that.
So I think he's telling me I've said enough. So I'll just.
Okay, what are you? As you're talking with the decision makers, you're hearing what they're saying. What are they saying is coming?
They're basically saying that opportunities for companies like ours, the 55, 64 now, Dave, or just 64 people here today, there are opportunities coming because what's going to happen is they're not going to award these large billion-dollar contracts automatically to the large primes. The large primes who do have them are going to need to use companies like ours because they're not getting things done fast enough to be competitive and make sure the warfighters have what they need. They're looking at us to innovation because any kind of innovation or visioneering is coming from here, right? They're looking at opportunities that you can submit unsolicited proposals, which people will talk about. They're looking at opportunities for cybersecurity. So they're looking to us as the place to innovate versus having things go out. It's not business as usual. Everything's changing.
So I heard that. So it's not business as usual. You have innovation. We have cyber. That was something that we know is an issue. And back in the office, and we know there's going to be cuts. I like it. So what is it?
Just use efficiency.
Make sure you put the
word efficiency, like research what's out there and make sure that you include that in what you're talking about. You're not going to be like, well, we want to be green and, we're going to do sustainability and we're going to really look at everything, take a while. Take all that out of your, you want to be talking what they're talking about, right?
Yep. And we're talk. That's one of the things we're going to talk about in just a minute is, hey, what are we going to do? Because if we see these things, we want to, and it's framing, we want to reframe what we offer, right? So that's where we're headed. I love that. Calvin, when you say innovation, go ahead. Calvin, unmute for a second. Love that question. And the answer.
So Sally, I was just trying to get a sense of what you're referring to when you say innovation. I mean, is it cybersecurity? I know AI is very hot across some of the things that I work on, which is product management. Are you talking about, is it technology driven or what is it what is it specifically that you're talking about when you say innovation?
Sure. So innovation is basically introducing new ideas, new technologies, which you said, practices, approaches to basically improve, in this case, government offerings or commercial offerings. So how can you innovate to reduce time, increase productivity, allow us to do the things that we do that aren't going to be done by AI? So innovation touches all those areas. And there's a lot out there on building a culture of innovation, but you have to be careful because Raphael and some of the others will talk about, but the government, they're risk averse, right? So how do you build innovation that mitigates risk? And so I know that some of the folks here can talk about that, but it's introducing new ideas that are going to increase efficiency and get results.
So I think innovation is innovation, and it just depends on what agency needs it and what innovation is to that agency, right?
Yep. Work in different ways to get better results.
So with Calvin, what you talked about, like AI is kind of universal, right? Where innovation in USDA may be something completely different. I would become something completely different than would be innovation for Department of Energy.
Okay, so it sounds like it's a mix of technology as well as process improvements in order to eliminate waste and speed efficiency.
Exactly, 100%.
And so, what I like about what you just said, Calvin, and what we just got is framing that, right? If you know, and do we know? Thumbs up if you think that the Trump administration is going to focus on innovation or what they think innovation is. Thumbs up.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And they want innovation that will get them to things like you mentioned it, Rafa, efficiency, right? And Doge, and you mentioned it, Sally.
Yeah.
Efficiency. So if that's the case, then to Sally's point, we want to frame what we do in the framing of what the executive branch, you mentioned this, Todd, executive branch pushes us down on top of the civilian and DOD, right? Both. It's coming down on both. And they're both going to be tasked with it. So if we're framing it, whatever we do, I don't care if we sell toner cartridges. They're going to be the most innovative toner cartridges we ever saw.
And I just put something in the chat. It's called Decoding Trump's Tech and AI Agenda, Innovation and Policy Impacts. So you can Google stuff. It'll start coming up more fresh as his administration starts publishing content.
And so let's look at this real quick. Go ahead, Rafa, real quick. Go ahead.
No, it's not. Just your point out, innovation, creating a new and better toner cartridge, but it might be a new improved way of ordering those toner cartridges, right? Instead of sending back and forth quotes and all these other things, obviously using of different schedules, but if, maybe a online purchasing portal, they're just trying to cut away a lot of the old inefficiencies.
I couldn't agree more. And again, it's about framing. And one of the best unsolicited proposals, you mentioned this before, Sally, was actually for toner cartridges. And it wasn't for toner cartridges, it was for the service that flipped it and made it non-commodity, because it turned into a service and a product, which made it innovative, which made it, sole sourceable.
Right.
Direct contract awardable. For toner cartridges, are you freaking kidding me? Not only that, remanufactured toner cartridges. So there's ways to be able to frame these to help folks. So this is what we're seeing real quick for everybody. This was a number at the first of the year. This is a high number. 6% is a high number showing up on sam.gov, but we were operating in continuing resolution. So this is also in the handout. So I wanted to make sure that you had that. And also just pushing and making sure that everybody realizes this is why we need to do this real time. Because if we don't monitor real time, we're going to miss whatever the change is. Everybody. So I'm going to ask this question in the polls. I've moved everything around, so I have to go here. I want to, hold on a second. What would you like to monitor? Do you just want to monitor pre-solicitations and sources sought? Do you want to monitor RFPs and RFQs? So RFQs can come from multiple places. They can come from GSA as well. How about prime contractors? Do you want to monitor prime contractor activity? How about federal buyer activity? Who's buying what you sell? And then you may just be interested in subcontracting opportunities. And Rafa, you know a lot about subcontracting. You've been involved in that. You actually managed a lot of subcontractors, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Vendor management was the crux of my work.
Yep. And then if and all of this does weave together, because it doesn't have to be an either or, it can be an and. It should be an and, because sometimes you're going to be subcontracting. Sometimes you're going to be in bed together working on a project as teaming members, Sally White. You're going to be working together. And other times you're going to be beating each other up, trying to win something against each other, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
little competition.
All right. So hot seat question number 2. We already started to dovetail into this. What's the most important for businesses come next Monday? What do we want to do? Go ahead, Todd. What do you think is important?
Well, obviously, I've got to argue that cybersecurity is important, but as far as beyond that, it's being nimble, right? Especially on the smaller side. Here is with RTX, GD, Lockheed, whoever. Your best, one of your best kind of your things about you is the fact you're nimble. Because you're smaller than the behemoths, you can adjust a lot faster. That's one thing that, when I've said this before, when I was working at Raytheon, we'd be focusing on things a year out. Well, they can't really do this year.
You're breaking.
So that means they're going to be ducking out. What's that?
You're breaking up.
Oh, okay.
So, go ahead. I like that. So cybersecurity, first of all, you mentioned cybersecurity. I want to give a shout out to you, because that's what you do. And you have a lot of history with cybersecurity in the federal government, right?
Absolutely.
So you have
almost 20 years now.
Yeah. So for folks who are looking to be able to meet the regulations, because the regulations is coming, right? Right, Ty?
Yeah.
They're coming. I love you talking about that, and I do want to give a shout out. Do me a favor and grab from GovBrief the link for your session coming up.
Okay, yeah.
Go grab it and put it into chat so everybody knows what that is. CMMC is a big deal, and the other feeding parts of that are the NIST requirements that you mentioned earlier. For those who didn't make so, and I think so. Let's fill this out. And then, Peter, I want to talk with you specifically about reducing risk in just a minute, because I think your process helps to reduce the risk for the buyers. But I want to throw this out. Who can answer this question? It can't be anybody that already answered the question. So answer this question for me. If we are not relevant, we are what? Put it in the chat. If we're not relevant, we are what?
History.
You can't say it wrong.
You're hosed.
You're invisible. Calvin, like that one? Useless. Dead. Good grief, John. Seth and John, man, you are nothing in the middle.
You're nothing, Jay.
You're nothing.
Nothing.
So if we are not relevant, and this goes, you're behind, not needed, not fundable. Ooh, I love that one, Marilyn. That leads right into where we're going with Peter in just a minute. I love it. Sandra, you got it.
That's it.
The way is, if we're not relevant, we are irrelevant. I want everybody to remember this, because until we prove we are relevant, until we prove that we are relevant, we are irrelevant. So if we're going to do this and what matters to them and what they need, we need to be relentless in our pursuit. Everybody agree with that? Because we already said it. The phone that's not ringing is them not calling you. They're not calling you because you're registered on SAM.gov. They're not calling you because you have a GSA contract. They're not calling you because you're service disabled or have an 8A. They don't know anything about you. It has to be on you to go out and get them what they need. And as I mentioned before, shameless, I did this talking about reaching federal stakeholders. You can get the on-demand on GovBrief on this. It's free. But we built GovBrief to actually reach federal stakeholders and drive hundreds. We have had over 110,000 attendees. We were doing it before it was cool with COVID. I can tell you that. Rafa.
Hey, pardon me, Dave.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, you have a gentleman, David Zorger, has raised his hand.
Okay, cool. I'll definitely get to that. And also, here's the CMMC one for you. The one that's in the middle that Todd just put there is the one that's on January 21st. We are talking with OTAs. I don't know those. I don't know how they work. But I was talking with Joan yesterday, Sally. Rock star she is. So
Such a rock star.
now we're talking about for-profit grants. So while we're thinking about those for just a minute, Peter, one of the things we have to do is we have to reduce risk. We have to reduce the risk on the buyer. So tell us a little bit about what reduces the risk on the front end if buyers know that you're well funded. How do they see you?
Well, once you've identified opportunities with Sam Radar, and you've got to be proactive to go after those, but once you've identified those opportunities, what the businessman or woman says to themselves, well, if I've identified this, I have to have the financial resources to bid on this. I've been doing this 35 years, and a lot of clients will say to us, geez, I wish I'd known about you 4 months ago, 6 months ago, because there were some opportunities we identified, but we didn't bid on them because if we won them, we didn't have the financial capability to perform. Well, our clients now, we are a game changer. So if you identify opportunities that you want to bid on, one of the biggest things the government looks at is financial responsibility. We will help you with financial responsibility by providing you with a letter of financial support that will accompany your proposal that will say to that contracting officer, should he or she award the business to you, that we are going to be there financially to support you in that endeavor. So it's like they're always going to, the government always going to want to check financial responsibility, and we've got you covered with that. And we are a game changer for our clients.
And so that's why I wanted to give you like the platform for a minute, because reducing the risk has got to be part of the process across the board, right? The way you see this happening all the time with past performance, because they're asking for 5 years of past performance on this particular, whatever they're trying to do. They're trying to weed out the folks that are not going to be able to perform, right, Peter?
Correct.
So if your letter of financial support, how much does that cost when somebody says, I want it?
It costs them zero.
Zero. It's my favorite 4-letter word. It's free.
There's no cost. There's no cost for the letter, and there's no cost to get up and running with us. The only time you incur a cost with us is if you actually borrow money.
Okay.
There's no other costs for the information, the guidance, the letters of financial support. And let me tell you, there are companies recently that have come to us. We had a company that was working on a base in California that providing all the meals. Well, they thought the Air Force was going to pay them every week so they could take care of their employees. Well, they soon found out that they don't get paid every week. They've got to submit their invoices, and they're probably 15 or 30 days out. So they didn't have money for payroll. We had 150 people that would have been out of work, and that company would have been probably KO'd from government contracting if we didn't step in to fund the payroll, because we will fund your payroll even before you've invoiced the government. So
because you know the government's going to pay.
Excuse me?
You know the government's going to pay.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So government is bankable. Government's bankable. Then you're going to get your money, right? So what Peter does is brilliant, and it works, by the way.
Yeah. And he understands. The reason why I love Peter is because banks don't understand the government. If you're an 8A, right? And you do a lot of work with 8As, right? Right, Peter?
Correct.
And if you're an 8A and you're $1 million 8A and you just want a $10 million contract, the bank is going to lose their mind.
Correct.
Right? So anyway, I just want to make sure you have the platform for a couple minutes so that you could let folks know what you do. Scan that code, and it's a real code. It goes to Peter.
I'll put Peter's information in the chat, and he'll also do a free consultation. So one of the nice things about Dave's team, the Dream team, is we'll all do free consultations with you all 61 of you, and kind of help you, support you, because you're friends of Dave, you're a friend of ours.
Let me add one other thing that's very, very important for your audience to understand. Regardless of your current financial condition, we lend to the opportunity, meaning that if you're a small company, big company, doesn't make any difference, but whatever you're bidding on, that's what we're going to create our lines of credit on. So we lend to the opportunity. So if you're a small company, but you want to bid on a big contract, as long as you can handle that contract, we will be there to support you with lending to the opportunity rather than your financial statements. So we look out the windshield to lend money, whereas banks look in the rearview mirror.
I don't like that. Awesome. So we can get folks out of here. I want to make sure, because we've been dovetailing these things together, right? So what are we seeing? What are we going to do come Monday? And so we're going to start talking about how to position ourselves to win in 2025. So one of the biggest things you need to do is be prepared. And I think, Peter, you just mentioned something. Even before the contract is awarded, you got to look like you belong, right? And you got to give them the value proposition. A part of your value proposition is reducing risk. And Rafa, you do a lot of work in this. So can you give us some ideas of what, if we're reframing, because we want to reframe our current offerings, we want to present them at our capabilities, right? So you do a lot of work with capability statements. What are some of the things that you recommend people to do so that it's aligning with what's coming up?
So I would look at, for example, you know that there are different types of capability statements, right? So think of this as a more of an opportunity specific, not a general capability statement. If you're addressing an agency or an agency specific capability statement, focus on the key metrics that align with their strategic plan and what their goals and objectives are. For example, if they're looking at cost savings, you can reference past performance that is relevant to those specific key strategic initiatives, right? And highlight the information that is relevant then and there. Don't put something general out there or a fluff piece. Remember that every time you send a capability statement out there, it's like sending a resume. It needs to hold water, it needs to track, the information needs to be consistent and needs to be relevant so that you can stay in the game. The capability statement is not going to get you a contract, but it will get your foot in the door and start the dialogue with the right person, right? So what you want to do is get that face-to-face time and then do a full-on capabilities briefing or a pitch, right? To get in front of the right decision makers. So it's important to, again, highlight the key specific areas that are of interest to that agency. If you know that they're focused on cost savings, document how you've been able to implement cost savings with your past initiatives. Use metrics. Metrics tell the picture, okay? Bullet point format, very brief. They don't need a thesis. Make it short and sweet. And please remember to address the 6 C's of a capability statement. Make sure that you have everything, your contact information above and beyond, and your codes. Make sure that they're aligned to your core area of expertise and what's relevant to your contracting officer. Those are some of the tidbits. But tomorrow, again, there's going to be a great piece published in Forbes magazine. I highly recommend it because it was written specifically for this context, and it talks about this.
I love it, man. I can't wait to see it. Congratulations on that again. That's huge. That is a big deal. So, do you need some help getting prepared? Is it working? Where's my poll? There it is. Is it working? All right, hold on a second.
I think you still had to close the old one.
There it is.
Oh, no, it's good now.
We got it. So, we just mentioned capability statements. You also help with presentation decks, marketing materials. Helps with LinkedIn profiles. We can do stuff with market intelligence, finding buyers, financing. That's Peter's group. So if you need some help with that. And then we also have Todd Crane with CMMC and cyber protection in there. So, so for what we're talking about for this next part, I just want to make sure we get you what you need for this while you're here. So we have the opportunity. I love what you were talking about, Todd, with CMMC, in fact, which that turns into an opportunity, right? If you are you have CMMC certification, then you have something that is a differentiator, even if the agency isn't asking for it, right, Todd?
Correct. It's all about, and especially if you want to subcontract, you know, the mega primes, you know, Raytheon, GD, Lockmart, everyone, they're looking for this right now because this is the top of their mind. You know, they don't want to get into bed with somebody that's going to lose them the contract.
That's a fact. And so we can leverage every part of the change, right? CMMC is part of the change. We have a new administration, another area of change, much change. We know that the change is coming. We saw it in 2016. We don't have to look very far. But here's the thing. We can't win what we never see. I said that before. This is why if we're not monitoring real time, we are going to miss it. And if we're not watching both sides of it, not just opportunities that hit the street, but contracts that are being awarded, we're going to miss it. We can't win anything that we can't see. And we can look at things by NAICS and PSC and keywords. If you're not familiar with those, we'll help you with that. But every one of these involves us in the engagement of the buyer and potentially the prime and potentially the project manager. We have to build relationships, and that's what the winnable opportunity matrix says. Grab that from the handouts. But we've got to get in front of the contracting officers. And KO, because it's DOD, right, Todd?
Yeah.
CO in DOD is commanding officer, and they are not commanding officers. They're contracting officers. They spend money. And here's the problem. We think we're all that. What do the feds think we look like when we're calling them and saying, hey, we want we would like to do business with you. We have all this experience. You know what they see us as, Rafael Marrero? Even with our fantastic capability statement, we still look like a bum on the street.
Come on, baby. Give me a
Contract. That's right. We want a contract. We think, here's the problem. We think we look like this. And we think that when we first reach out to these people, I just talked to somebody today in email. I got everything I need. I'm on we're marketing our sam.gov thing, right? For the tutorial. I got everything I need. I'm registered on sam.gov. All right. I'm sure that's how it works because we expect our conversation, Todd. We expect our conversation to be, hey, we're going to put a ring on that bad boy. We're going to have 8 Optimum, 8 million. We're going to have $1 million contracts.
Are you saying that's not how it works?
Yeah, it works like that. In what world does this work? But for some reason, people think this. And the fact is, if we are not relevant, we are irrelevant. So we're going to do what we're going to do, Rafael Marrero. Love what you said. We're going to align what we have with what they need, and not just what they need on paper. You mentioned it. The mission of the organization, very important, but they got new needs now. Come Monday, they have new needs because they're going to have executive orders that are going to come down on their head. And it doesn't take Congress to turn that into a law for them, right?
Nope.
It is immediate. So if we're going to do this, we're going to do it quick. We got to do it quick, and it can happen in 2 minutes. And you want to be relevant, and the biggest thing that I say for relevance is, what are they doing? What are they buying? Who are they working with the primes? That's what matters to them. So if you're talking about contract activity and you know about contract activity, what do they need for that? Because they still need socioeconomic set-asides, right, Rafa?
That's right.
They still need certifications, right? They still need to get the job done, and they have new initiatives that are coming down. So if we're not relevant, we are irrelevant, and that means that if they don't know us, we are in the red. We are irrelevant. So I did ask the poll earlier. We'll get one more poll out here. If there's anybody that did not get what they need, we'll make sure that you get what you need. If you need professional help with engaging buyers, you can do that. I highly encourage you to check out samradar.com. It's in the handout, in the chat. Please check that out, because if you're not seeing it, you can't win. And if you're missing 98% of it, you're already not winning 98%. You don't even have a shot at 98%.
100% of 0 is 0. So
that's a fact.
98.
Peter, you getting a message in the chat that Tom wants to connect with you. So just FYI.
Super. Okay. And so today at 1 o'clock, Ralph, are you around to join me for a little bit, or you got your?
No, I'll join in. I'll jump off for the news and I'll jump back on. You know me. I'll be there. I'll be here.
I know. I have to compete with your media tour around the United States.
Jesus.
Yeah. So
I'm a glutton for punishment.
Let me grab that for those of you, because I have somebody asking for this in my private chat. So let me grab that from GovBrief real quick. I
really enjoy those sessions, Dave. You know that.
What's that?
I really enjoy the sessions we do together.
I know you tell me you do anyway. No, I love it. I love doing it. I can't wait. I tell you what, if you guys
go, have a good week. Kev's leaving.
All right, cool. This is the sam.gov tutorial registration link on GovBrief for that, for those who are asking for that. And if you're a little bit about us, we've been around for a little while. Sam Radar is our thing, so is GovBrief, and we talked about that. If you want to reach experts, GovBrief will help you do it. You can find that on GovBrief. And Rafael Marrero's information is right here. You can reach out to Rafa. Rafa was referring me business before we ever met. It was awesome. It was crazy. Then we met up in DC, and it's been crazy for everybody that's met us ever since, right, Rafa?
Absolutely. It's been a great ride, and we've gone all over the United States participate and shared stage during national conventions, and even had the hottest red and green sauce in Albuquerque, Nuevo Mexico, right?
Yep. That was crazy. We had a good time there. And Sally White here, Sally's information, Sally's Echo Wolf Solutions. I highly recommend reach out to her if you want to, especially if you're doing any industry days. Right, Sally?
Absolutely.
Yep. That's your key. And LinkedIn so industry days and LinkedIn. This is Todd Crane. He does things for cybersecurity. And I do need to add, I'm sorry, Denise, I didn't add you to that for-profit grants. But we really didn't get into for-profit grants with Denise today, but she is an expert in those. And I tell you what, I wish I'd have known Denise when I developed Sam Radar, because I'd have saved at least $500,000.
Hey, Dave, don't forget, if they need to reply to some of these RFIs and RFPs, we can help them write that.
That is true. So that's that. I appreciate that. Yeah, you do. She does writing, and you have a team of people that do the writing. It's not just you. That do it. And guess what I hate to do?
Right.
That's freaking paperwork. I hate it all. Peter Timmis, there's Peter Timmis's information. Again, appreciate you, Peter. Thanks for sharing that stuff.
Thank you.
Brian Hebel wasn't with us today. He does a lot of work on the FAR. CPAR's expert as well. So acquisitionhelp.com. Join me today at 1 p.m. for the tutorial. It's in there. And we appreciate you guys joining us today. And we're actually getting out on time. Believe it or not, Todd Crane, it's a miracle.
You're awesome.
It's a new government efficiency, you know?
That's right. Yeah. And so,
Thanks.
all right, appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate you guys. Have a great month. We'll see you next month.